are my friends. Come along with me, see how the story ends.
What's up, all you hippies and sometimes professionals? We're your hosts. Welcome to the Professional Hippie Show. I'm Colton. This is Dylan. And today, we're going to shift it up a little bit off the back of some of the business stuff that we've been doing outside the podcast. Today, I think is a great day to talk about the relationship between psychedelics and sales. Ironically, is there a correlation? Is there a causation between cost and benefit and all the things associated with that? So we'll start there and kind of meander through a few different other topics. But if you've been curious around psychedelics, I mean, that's kind of one of the cornerstones of our podcast. If you are a sales professional, I'm sure you can relate to a lot of things we'll talk about. But how's that sound for you, Dylan? You game to talk about some of that stuff?
Yes.
I mean, I know we just kind of talked about what we're going to talk about, but
I guess we'll do the pre-plan. I guess we'll follow the book.
I know a helicopter pilot that didn't do that recently.
Uh-oh.
Just kidding. Hey, Southwest, get your shit together. I don't know why you want us to pay for seating and now take away our bags. But
by the way, for that, they got a new investor, I guess, and that new investor came in, wiped out most of their people that were there, that have been there for years, and are like, I'm going to run things now, and trying to make it the new United Delta American.
Southwest, the only thing, I mean, the prices were consistently like $40 higher, but you knew I got 2 free check bags, and I have to stay on top of when I'm going to check in, because most of the time I'm not going to pay for the upgrade. I'm just going to set an alarm and try and hope that I land in the A category. But
which helped with boarding. It kept probably people consistent on showing up and not missing their flights, because you have to check in to get the best option. They're like, oh yeah,
they don't even have the little screen. They don't have the screen.
They don't even have
the flights I've been on.
Yeah, they don't even have a screen in there. They go, hey, here's Wi-Fi and you can log in and use your own phone.
Good luck. We have friendly flight attendants. It's like, can I get the price of Spirit with the care of Delta? Can we?
Southwest. That should be their new slogan. The price of Spirit, but the care of Delta. Check your bags in.
As the prices go down, we all win. So
yeah, they probably won't lower the seating prices now though, because they're like, oh, you got to check your bags, and we're going to keep pricing up. All right, Southwest, and you're still in these old planes.
Well, let me do my best attempt at a callback. So the CEO should probably take a trip, is where I'm going with that. And not like a trip to like Asia, because that would be the South. Anyway, psychedelics and sales. So I was having a conversation with a client, and my background, for anyone that's not familiar, is in sales of kind of like door-to-door stuff, but also high-ticket coaching offers, big ticket things that ideally you're closing on one sale. Dylan's experience, a bit more in like the longer sales cycle. Would you say, Dylan?
Yeah, PEO sales, big companies, small companies too, but it can take months for the sales process.
A lot of hands in the pot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if you're talking to the decision maker, they're still probably going to confer with other people. And
correct. Whatever. You still got to talk to the team, each department, the heads of the departments, make sure they're cool with everything, the processes. So yeah, a little bit longer of a process.
Yeah. So one of the things I was talking about, because this guy was having a little bit of trouble with the connection of, hey, maybe I'm getting great results on my calls, but then I feel empty outside of sales, or I feel really fulfilled over here, but my results at work aren't showing up. And so it's kind of this weird dichotomy. One of the things that I was curious to kind of hear your perspective on this, because, we've seen some sons come up and have talked about, I don't know, the stuff we like to do outside of work. And it's weird that when done intentionally, I feel like if I was to take, I'm going to throw the proper terms out the window, like the candy coated terms. Like if I take a trip, if I have a psychedelic experience, oftentimes like with intention, like treating it as medicine, I come back to life feeling recharged, focused, sometimes challenged, where there's pieces in my life where I'm like, maybe it's a relationship, whether romantic or friend or familial, there's maybe some stickiness there that you decide, hey, I'm going to deal with this or I'm not. Right.
Mhm.
So it's weird. It seems like the container outside of sales is just as important as sharpening the skills and the strategies that translate inside the container. And so that this is kind of one of the things I was articulating to him is like, hey man, it's very difficult to be the most confident version of yourself on a sales call if you're not doing all the other stuff that makes you feel confident. Eating right, working out, or at the very least, like the biggest one I've seen is following through. Just like flat out having integrity. Like if you tell somebody you're going to do something and you follow through on it, like that builds a little bit of confidence in yourself every time you do it. But it's the ultimate take one step forward, 3 steps back if you are consistently breaking promises. And then you're on a sales call and someone's like, are you sure this is going to work? Like people can read your energy. They can kind of like sniff out your bullshit. And so I don't know. It just seems like every time I did a psychedelic trip, it just realigned a lot of that minutia, and you just work through a bunch of your bullshit, and you come back feeling recharged. A couple times, it actually made me quit things that I was doing. Just like flat out, I was like having to have a tough conversation with leadership and go, "Hey, uh, working at a county fair trying to sell our product is just not it. Not it."
You don't miss
Okay.
the Strawberry Festival?
I distinctly remember watching a man almost have to go to the hospital because I was going to convince him that our knives were not sharp. He had it in his hand and everything.
Wow.
He
That's
was like, "You tell me these knives ain't sharp, partner?" I was like, "Why would we have sharp knives on display at a fair?
Why?
That's just a liability. Why would we do that?"
Why
And
would you do it?
I was waiting for the knife to drop, man. Just don't do it the right way. Do it the wrong way. Just slide it across the fingers.
Right? Yeah, just do it once. You should test it out, sir. Just test it out. I want to. He goes, and that's why you should buy our knives, sir, because they're that sharp.
I think he saw the glint in my eye though. I was way too happy. I was giddy. I was so ready for it. So ready for it.
He was outside his comfort zone. He doesn't deal with too many folks outside his backyard. So he
Yeah.
he was like, I don't know about this guy.
This guy got some crazy in his eyes.
I like his knife. Good.
But do you ever feel that way? Do you ever have any of those experiences where you'd kind of go off and it's just like, I mean, it's not like psychedelics have to be, again, psychedelics aren't a panacea, but for us,
I definitely think so. And folks, by the way, I'm not feeling too well today. So if I'm coughing or feeling under the weather, I feel under the weather. So just putting that out there because I'll be wiping my nose and drinking tons of water on this podcast. But like, I remember that definitely starting in sales, and I hadn't really done much psychedelics at that point. I'd done a lot of, in DMA and stuff like that, but like the psychedelic world, I hadn't tapped in too heavily. And, I was a rookie getting into sales, so I'm saying all the like scripts and doing everything and da 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 da. And, a couple of times too, thankfully, I call a couple customers or a couple cold calls, and the guy would be like, "Hey man, just practice because you sound like a robot." Like I would love the feedback. I would love it that they would give me feedback that call, but they would just be like, "Hey, give me your pitch." And I give it to them, and then they were like, "I'm not going to buy, but work on this, and call me back in like a year."
Yeah.
For like kind of their coaching. And so I did notice as I did psychedelics, you get that transformation of like, not everything needs to be so tight ass all the time on everything. Like, hey, we have nothing but time on things. It'll get done when it needs to be done. And there's things that need to hurry up and stuff like that too. But something I definitely picked up over time, especially in sales, was like being a lot more real on conversations and doing experiences. That over time, doing experiences has helped me kind of relate to other clients and what they're doing. Like the other day, someone was like, "Oh, we're going on a honeymoon to Hawaii." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," like I proposed to my wife in Hawaii and we got to talk about that, and that builds a connection. Or going on backpacking trips and you get to talk to people that are outdoorsy, and so having these experiences outside of the sales world, you got to make sure you're living life so you can go do that. And when it came to doing the psychedelics, I just kind of, for the corporate world, I was like, man, I'm tired of having to stick up my ass. I'm going to talk to people how I want to talk to people
Yeah.
instead of like the scripts. And sales jumped up dramatically, and I feel like too, when you're talking to, key decision makers and stuff, and you're saying like, hey man, or hey, I need this, you're just talking upfront about everything. I feel like they now know that I've been doing this long enough that they're like, I can talk to this guy. We're doing business here. I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm not trying to be your buddy.
Yeah.
You're trying to get me something that hopefully helps me. And if it does, I'll move forward. If it doesn't, I'll let you know and we'll revisit. Because
Yeah.
I know how business works. And it sounds like you also know how business works, is where they're coming from. And so yeah, I definitely felt like it helped me relax a little bit more, because I went through that little bit of like, corporate world, took some psychedelics, then was like, "Oh, man, is this for me? Sales, because now you're like, what is there more to life? But then once I got to the point, was like, oh, there's more to life by being not a stick up your ass when you're, in the corporate world. Just be yourself, and
Yeah.
people will appreciate that. Now, don't get me wrong, it does get you in a little bit of trouble sometimes, because some people in the corporate world want you to have a stick up your ass. And
What is
sometimes
that about
you
too?
have to just kind of move on from that. Like, that's not a good company to work for. Like, I
Yeah.
want people that are a little bit more real to work with, And yeah, I don't follow this and and kiss ass and Like, I get it. You got to kiss ass a little bit
Sure.
to the heads. There's no one's saying you don't have to, but like, some people go way out of their way to do it.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey man,
It's like the rule followers. If
yeah,
someone has been in a box, and I don't think it's fair even in the slightest to say like the corporate jargon, blanketed statement type stuff, like, oh, all corporations are that way. Like, I definitely don't think that's true. I do think what every corporation does have, though, because in some way it's needed, are just rule followers, right? And I don't know where like corporate speak comes from, but it's just maddening to imagine someone's like so straight edge, where it's like, where are you getting your fix? I mean, every human has a vice. And so if it's not coming out, if your weird's not coming, you're bottling up all your weird at work.
mhm,
What kind of funky ass shit are you getting into off the clock?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, is that why CEOs like to be dominated? That whole dominatrix thing with CEOs, they're just like, I'm so straight edge all the time. I just need a
Well, I
woman
think
in leather
because
just to dominate me.
because they do have a stick up their ass most of the time, because they're always, they're only PR. Everything they do in life, unfortunately, is being watched. Especially, these heads of companies. Everyone's videotaping them all the time, and that's why it's kind of interesting that people complain about CEOs being paid so much. It's like, yeah, but like, they're on the clock 24/7. That's not a
The lifestyle, right?
that's not a 9 to 5.
You're basically a professional athlete in a sense.
In the corporate world, yeah, like, you're always being videotaped, you're always being watched, everything you do is being judged, about everything you say is being judged. You got to go speak in front of thousands of people sometimes, and depending on what you say can literally adjust your company stocks.
What do you think, tangent, if you have some good thoughts in there, pin them, come curious. What do you think, like, on the topic of what fair compensation would be for a CEO? Is there like a multiple that you would attach to like the bottom paid employee to like the CEO?
I don't remember what the percentage was, but I liked what someone did, that the parity can't be this much between the lower and the upper. And so
Mm,
if the company's doing well, salaries are going to go up,
right.
right? So I always thought that was good, because then the boards have to vote on that. Like, all right,
Mhm.
CEOs, yours is going to go up, but if the CEOs is going up, we have to make everyone else's kind of go up.
Like, what would you put that multiple at? Let's say the lowest paid employee is 56,000, right? For like, I don't know, janitorial position or something like
It
that.
depends on the size of the company too that you're dealing with, right? Like,
Say Fortune 500, pretty big company. Maybe
yeah,
1,000 plus employees.
yeah. I mean, if the lowest is making, I mean, Fortune 500 company, I hope it's not 56,000, but if it is 56,000, I mean, I'd say a CEO can make definitely low seven figures on that, not upper seven figures like a lot of these CEOs. I think
Like 5
lower.
million.
Yeah, something like that would probably be reasonable,
Yeah.
right? But then two as well, if I think it could also, a CEO salaries could also be based off of if the company is providing bonuses. So if you're providing bonuses, that CEO can have a higher salary than normal
Hmm.
because now the company's doing so good that we can give some of the money back to the employees. And that CEO is doing so well for the company and its customers. They should be rewarded. Like that
Yeah.
CEO is being a leader of a company. They should be rewarded with more than maybe usual.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're a CEO that's cutting costs and you're coming in there to swipe things, you shouldn't be rewarded for that. But unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that do reward CEOs for doing that because the caveat to that is you do have to be the asshole CEO that's coming in and cutting costs, getting rid of, you got to be the bad view, the bad CEO, I guess.
Wasn't it a court case that ultimately uh, it basically meant that IPO companies, like, they have to do what's in the best interest of shareholders, like they have to maximize
Yeah.
profit. I don't I don't remember exactly how that came into.
Well, I mean, that's every company. They have to always do what's best for.
No, but there was
That's,
like a pivotal moment that, like,
well, that's why there's pizza
that was like
parties.
the law.
There's pizza parties, right? You can't, if there's a choice between giving the money back to the employees working or giving the money back towards their stockholders, you have to give it back to the stockholders because
Mhm.
they're your original investors. It's like angel investors. You have to take care of your angel investors first before you can start taking care of yourself.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. That's just always such an interesting concept. Like when we were talking about insurance, that whole insurance thing a couple episodes ago. There's certain things where it's the balance between government overreach, right? Like, don't strip my liberties, but at the same time, when you have companies in place that are for the benefit of the public, like healthcare, insurance, I understand you need like a little bit of a, let's call it a war chest. You need some coins in your coffer for when things go sideways. National disaster happens or whatever, and you got to pay out all the claims.
Sure.
But things are going to hell in a handbasket, and you've got $18 billion in profits that year. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah. Those that's been really weird lately how these corporations have been having huge profits, right? But it's not going back towards, and it's not like the stocks are having huge jumps.
Right.
So it's like, where are where are you siloing it all at?
It's like the shrinkflation thing. It's weird that, I mean, man, I saw one of my 1099s from like 5 or 6 years ago. And do you remember what making like 120, 150 grand felt like 5 years ago, 7 years ago?
Very nice. Really liked it. It was
Dude,
awesome. It was
it
awesome.
was like, oh, I'm good.
This is
I'm
what that should
good.
feel like. Yeah. Like
Right?
doing things, can afford things, can kind of invest things.
Yeah. It doesn't feel that way these days. And so I'm wondering, like, how how are we as just like a collective seeing shit get smaller and the price go up? Just like referring to goods in general. It just feels like a bird's nest. And I know we kind of digressed pretty good from like the psychedelic sales things, but
Also, what we were talking about earlier for where all that money's going. I mean, look at Goldman Sachs. They just got someone looked at them. They had like thousands of VPs in
oh
their
yeah.
company. VPs don't have low salaries. Those are massive salaries within an organization.
I think it's mainly the title thing when they
Plus
have
bonuses, plus whatever else they're getting, benefits,
they
everything.
have
Well, I
like
will say that
VP.
a lot of companies' benefits are expensive these days too, right? So a lot of companies are spending towards benefits as well to take care of who can provide the best stock option, the best benefit plan to recruit people.
Well, that's the tough part too. Like one of the points that I felt like you were starting to make earlier, and we just kind of went off track on is you can go have an incredible psychedelic experience and realize like, oh, like my opinion, like this is what life's about. It's about love, loving others, being loved. And for me, it's really just about enjoying the passage of time. Like things get too crazy. I just have to remind myself, like, the whole purpose of time, if it's a construct, is to enjoy the passing of it, making memories, and really just like,
Be here now.
you can't say you don't want hard times because the hard times make you appreciate the good times. It's the contrast, the duality that really makes like the peaks worth it. But at the same time, this realm, this physical plane we play on, it is a big game. And so you go have this big trip and you realize like, oh, none of this shit matters. Well, it does actually. Like you come back from the trip and you're like, well, jet skis are fun. Objectively, having the money to go ride a jet ski or buy a jet ski or a house that doesn't have bugs in it, new shoes, go to a date with your lover at a nice place. Objectively, these are nice things. And therefore, I would say it does matter, you know?
And I think too, and we've had people on the podcast too that have talked, coaches that have talked about that. When you go through a psychedelic experience, it's really not about the experience itself. It's what you do with that experience afterwards, how you carry that on to your life afterwards. Right. And I felt like when I had that experience of, chill out a little bit, things are going to be okay, enjoy things. Um, Instead of kind of going down the becoming a wook route and like nothing matters, like everything's gonna be brought to me, borrow from whatever from people. I was like, oh, I could just carry this into the corporate world, and people. And then when I did that, people are like, oh, this guy's he knows what he's doing. He's relaxed. He's comfortable. But really, it was just like I don't care what happens. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, great. I'm gonna keep learning. I'm gonna keep doing what I need to do, but I'm not gonna let anxiety take over me. That am I doing this right? Am I not? And like what you were saying earlier, it's about the follow up too. With when you're working a lot in sales and doing what you say you're going to do, and then when you mess up, don't worry about it. As long as you fix it quickly, it's okay. They just want to know: are you going to do what you say you're going to do, and are you going to fix your mistakes if it happens, or if I do have a problem, can you help me resolve it? And a lot of times I like to say, if you're, especially in sales, be the type of person you would want your business partner to be. Like you're not going to go into business with someone if you don't trust them to be, stick with it with you when it going gets tough or fixing things. You're not, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But a lot of people a lot of new sales reps freak out, and apologize, and they do more apologizing than spending time fixing it.
Right.
Hey, man, that's okay, dude. I mess up all the time. Just fix it.
I think that's the beautiful part too, though, about like the scripts, let's say, because if you don't know where to start, like of course scripts are a great place to start.
Sure.
The nuance though of showing up as like the authentic version of yourself and that banter, that takes an extreme amount of understanding of how to navigate communication, right? Like the example I used before we got on air, where you talked about, somebody was like, you answered a sales call, follow up or something. And you're like, yeah, man, I just got done mowing my lawn. Like that, the brevity of that statement followed by displaying your expertise is extremely important. So it's one thing to say, hey, show up as your authentic self, but you still have to have the acute understanding of how to display your professionalism really quickly. Like you got to be dead on with transitioning from, hey, yeah, I'm a chilled, laid back guy, but I also know my shit.
Correct.
If you don't have that back end part, then you come across sloppy. And then I think that's why we always start out in sales with like the corn candy, just script where it's just like, okay, hi, do you have a minute of your time? Can I borrow real quick?
And that's where we all start too, right? We all start that you have to go through that to kind of realize, like, kind of get the pattern down and the repetition down. How many times have you and I we've been on our trips and we had to take a sales call, and we're just like, hey, and you're like talking to them and you're like, hey, sorry about the background noise. I'm on a boys trip. And the dude's like, hell yeah, dude. Where y'all at? They get into it. How many times have we done that with our clients? And they love it. They're like, oh, hell yeah. What are you doing on the phone with me? I mean, I got to do my job still.
Oh, man. Being at Red Rocks and STS9 just came on and my tenants are locked out, or the Airbnb guests rather are locked out. And I'm like, oh, this is a problem I have to handle right now. They're like, thanks for getting back to me so soon. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It was literally right then, or you were locked out. Like that wasn't, I had about a 5-minute window to help you before things really went downhill.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta know, you gotta handle your shit. But that's the thing that I remind myself of, unless you're going lack of a different term, catatonic, right? Like I've had some larger dose experiences where you're just kind of hoping you're getting on, the old Mayflower, and you're like, I'm gonna be gone for a minute, and there's no text, email, or letters that are gonna be able to reach me, and I just have to trust that the universe will handle whatever fires attempt to start while I'm out here on this journey.
That is true. That is, I think, what a lot of people have anxiety over too, is because they think a lot, there are people that rely on them, of course, but they think for these next 4 hours, 10 hours, whatever you're doing, like, people are going to rely on me during this time. It's like, I mean, maybe, or, you could just kind of put everything down for a minute and take time for yourself in this
Yeah.
instance.
Especially if you have kids. Like, I mean, we can't relate to what that feeling would be, but I've spoken to quite a few different people that's the main anxiety is like, what if my kid needs me?
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you leave them in capable hands.
Yeah. I mean, tee that one up. Don't just leave the house and go do what you want to do. Like, make sure buddy in place, I assume,
I put a box of macaroni in the pot. You're going to want to take that out of the box before you heat up the pot. You'll figure it out. I'll be back in 7 or 8 hours. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I mean, take care of responsibilities, but that's part of also enjoying the experience too. Like to take care of responsibilities, before you go do these things. And it's smart to do that so you don't have all the anxiety while you're on a trip.
It's interesting too. I had I'm part of this men's group. We have accountability calls. I was talking to one of the guys in my pod today, and we were just kind of talking about depression, some really real stuff. And one of the things that I got from psychedelics was like this odd certainty that everything would be okay, even if I died. Because I think there's sometimes where I can't say I was like really afraid of dying or, things happening. And sometimes you get really deep into a trip and it's like, what are you afraid of? Like, you're gonna die. People die every day. You've already had people that you love die. Like, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And so somehow making peace with that, and not that there's some profound thought coming through me, it's just somehow making peace with that. It's like, oh, I'll just do my best, I guess. And it's like, I can't really worry about shit I can't change. If I can change it, let's try and do something about it, right? I mean, if there's a leak in my roof, like, yeah, let's get that fixed. But I can't worry about, like, is there a storm going to come that's going to rip my roof off? What am I worrying about?
I almost feel, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and I feel, the ego death, that's kind of what that's called too. But I felt like when I went through that too, I feel like that connects you more with nature in a way. Because like, how much does nature really care about death?
Right.
It's like, no, this is what happens. Like, it's just come and go, and we'll see what happens. It's almost like they know something's on the other side, and that takes care of things and come back. And when our consciousness hasn't been able to process that yet, until you like, in order for us to process it right now, you got to take this medicine. Like, we haven't figured out that whatever's on the other side hasn't figured out to just give us that ability to figure out yet. So here, we'll put some stuff around for you to, hopefully they figure it out on their own.
Yeah. I forget what the term is. It's easily observed and like prey, like fish. You catch a fish and it just stiffens up and it's like, okay, I'm like, this is happening. Yeah. There's something it feels like when, going into a ceremony where it's like you're pulling that life or death moment forward. And sometimes it's really intense and you kind of stiffen up and like all of the adrenaline, cortisol dumps in the body. And then your brain's working through like, wait, we're not being eaten by a pack of wolves right now. So what else is going on? And you start to go through some loops and like layers internally of just moving stuff out. I don't even remember how many ceremonies it took for me to work through like that shit you push way back there. Some of those boxes. Sometimes you open up all the fucking boxes. It's like a Mario game. You're like, man, I hit every block and I was not trying to go for that. Ideally, it's like we can take one little chunk out of the corner of the universe at a time and go, okay, pretty weird and put it away.
You get the fire shooting one. Boop, and you're like, I love it. Put that back. Good idea. Now. Thanks. No thanks.
Yeah. Isn't it the best when maybe you forget to set an intention, or you're just like not in control of your thoughts and stuff starts getting thrown at you, and you're like, I didn't ask for any of this, actually. This is not.
Hey, I thought there was only one of you.
Just got bad thoughts, and you're like, hey, anybody got like any off or bug spray? I don't know.
It's the Rain-X.
I just got the best visual. You putting like Rain-X on your glasses.
Your beads off. Get out of here. Get out of here, thoughts. Just beat out of here.
or you have some like the thought loops come up, and you go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna choose not to handle that. And then your next trip, it comes right back up, and you're like, okay, I mean, I guess this is what we're doing, huh? It's not going to go away. Like, we got to handle this.
Couldn't handle it last time. Like, I'll just wait on by myself. Like, do we have to do this now?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to be said for, it's just that inner work, right? And as much as we talk about psychedelics on the podcast, there's plenty of other ways to get to the same place. And I think if you spend any amount of time with someone that probably spends a lot of time in nature, they give off the exact same energy. Psychedelics are not. Right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, all those Appalachian people, for sure. You know, they're always in nature. They're like just like that. All that wisdom they throw out at you. They're taking life slowly.
Yeah,
not in a rush. It's 3 hours to the next gas station. Whatever.
When you're just kind of in communion with, like you said, like nature's pretty cool with stuff dying. Nature's also really cool with finding a way to make stuff live. I mean, like that motivational poster we've all seen of like the tree that's digging its roots into the rocks. It's amazing the lessons you learn from just going out on a trail, backpacking, or just doing a hike or whatever. And if you just allow your mind to tune in, I don't know what it is about nature, man. It's just
my favorite is seeing like a dead tree. That's a dying tree, or it's dead already. But then you see fungus growing out of it. You know, even in death, there's still life growing out. It's still producing life somehow, or helping with life.
I had a fun conversation with a friend at a party the other night. I don't know what we got into, talking about energy's not created nor destroyed. You're just kind of going down a rabbit hole of solving the world's problems. And I was like, I kind of want to be that guy right now, because this is not a polished thought, but it's something I've thought about fairly often. So one of the laws of what is that? Thermonuclear dynamics, thermo something. Anyway,
thermodynamics.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we assume it's one of our laws, right? Energy's not created nor destroyed. But the exception to that is we don't know what goes on in a black hole. Like all of our physics breaks down in a black hole. So it's like all of this like house of cards, if you will, is built upon the premise that it all breaks down. Like we don't know. Is energy destroyed at the center of a black hole? I mean, we can't necessarily, at least I understand, we can't understand like the density of the center of a black hole.
No one knows what happens in a black hole. It's one of those things in life people are like, I ain't going in there. Figure it out. Call us when you get back.
Right? So, yeah, I mean,
but it makes it interesting, that theory, though. Are black holes the connection to other dimensions or universes? Are black holes the big bangs of other places?
Do black holes spit anything out? I mean, I think there's X-rays.
Some's coming out potentially on the other side. If it's going in, is it coming back out on the other side? Who knows? Or are you going into a portal that's going somewhere else, and that's why you don't spit out the other side? You just go in and come out somewhere else.
I mean, best guess is like we got to be on the other side of a black hole, right?
That's why there's a bunch of black holes everywhere. There's other universes.
Isn't that a mind fuck?
And every time a galaxy is destroyed, it's sucking in all the other stuff from this galaxy and then spitting out gas on the other side. That's how, let's say that's how our Big Bang was created. It's a black hole happened. Everything got sucked in. It gets compressed, destroyed into atoms, and comes out as a gas on the other side. That was the big concern about the big what is that thing that opened up this call where they're sitting atoms into each other? I forgot what it's
Oh,
called.
the hadron collider or something.
Yeah, they were like, oh, we might create our own black hole. That's cool.
And I love that we still went ahead and did it. I referenced that and the atom bomb more than anything when you think about what's coming with AI, and quantum computing, because they're like, well, this might destroy us. I'm like, there's one thing I can be confident in, is that humans have some kind of programming in us. You put enough of us in a room, there's always a dude down. Maybe he came from a great family, has a wife and kids that he loves. Okay, we don't even have to paint him as a villain. No bad upbringing, not a secret undercover agent dude. Just some dude that's like, I'll press the button.
And I don't think it's that the people don't want it to happen. I just don't think they want that on their consciousness on the back end, that they're the ones that destroyed humanity. They're like, I don't want to do it. And that one dude, I know it would be me too. I'd be like, get that thing over here.
Yeah, I'd for sure be in the middle of that pack. I'd be like, real quick, there's just want to recap this, a not 0% chance we're going to light the atmosphere on fire if we drop this bomb, right? Just
want to make sure.
Is that what we just discussed? Is that what the math is saying over there? Because I'm building the shell of the bomb. I don't even know what's written on that board, but did I overhear that at the water cooler? It was totally cool. Totally cool.
Realize that you're right. Whoever's creating the shell is just like, wait, what?
Yeah,
what's going in this thing?
I get it. I'm not pulling rank. I don't have a rank to pull. Tim, can you say that again? Just run that back one more time.
Tomorrow's meeting, Jim. Oh, you're out. It's all right. We'll be in the briefing. Don't worry about
it. The two atoms coming together. He's like, I think this will create a black hole. Everybody's looking around like, that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing. Good thing. Guy in the back's like, do it.
Do it.
Do it.
I'll do it. We're creating a black hole. So it's life somewhere, right? We're creating life somehow.
That's when the guy that did recently take a trip and said, none of this matters, speaks up. And he's like, we have nothing to lose, fellas. Everything to gain.
Meteor is going to hit us at some point anyways. What does it matter? In human civilization now, or speed it up? Which one do we want?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, who knows what happens on the other side of AI, but we started watching 0 Day. Have you seen that show on Netflix? It's got Robert De Niro in it. Super good so far. Robert De Niro, all-time great. Dude's
great. For sure.
A gangster. And so one of the things that Abby and I were talking about is kind of the state of global politics or whatever, and it kind of feels like really tense currently, like, all the stuff going on. My personal conviction is that I feel like we have had people with a lot hotter tempers in presidential positions, not just our government, but worldwide. If you think about the Cold War and stuff like that, if we made it this far without trying to totally obliterate each other, I mean, I kind of have a lot of faith. I got a lot of faith that things are going to be okay. I mean, granted, we didn't have the access to information, getting pelted with propaganda at the same rate as we were during like the Cold War or something, but we've built a ton of nuclear bombs and not dropped them.
Just a few laying around. I mean, nuclear warheads underwater now, just floating around out there. No one, we got a few laying around.
The first bombs felt like we told you so. After that, I don't think anybody was like, it's like that one friend at a party that gets knocked out talking shit to a big guy, and he's like, I don't want to do this.
As horrible as that was, that sure did calm shit down for a little while. Save the world. As horrible as that was. Now, were we assholes and perfected war, might have leveraged that we have that kind of stuff and went and did some shit. Sure, I wish it was not good. But as far as World War stuff goes, ain't doesn't seem like people are trying to take that action anymore.
It's just so weird that war is even honestly still a thing when there's an end game. Like when you play a video game and you unlock all the levels and you get to the end, now you have the super sword or the super gun or whatever, but then you distribute that to all the other players. Why do you keep playing the game?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying war is needed, but I can see why wars happen sometimes, right? I mean, it's think of the tigers and territories, wolves and territories, right? Like there's animal kingdoms fight. What makes us different, right? That we might do something like that. Because then there might be scenarios where, for whatever reason, treaties are broken. Or maybe, for example, resources are delinquent, right? And so you're like, well, shit, I need to get something. That country has it. I need to take care of my family. And they're being dickheads and not letting me have some of their water. And they have plenty of it. If I, I got to take care of my kids and my family. I'm going to do something about it. That's how future wars are going to break out. It's going to be over resources.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about like second order world powers, like, yeah, that makes sense, right? Like they don't have great infrastructure, whatever. I mean, I guess today's day and age, information is the race, right? Computers hacking, all that kind of stuff, to be able to bring down someone's infrastructure and say, oh, it wasn't us, but this is convenient timing. We would really like you to sign that energy deal over there. And who knows, your power grid might come back on, actually. I don't know.
Yeah.
We could find out who did it. Maybe tell them, turn it back on. That'd be pretty cool, right?
Because it's not going to be really like power or energy. I don't think that would cause wars. It's going to be things that help you live, right? Your water, fresh water, resources, food.
I'd put electricity up there.
You think electricity? I don't think electricity would, because like it's been proven that people can live without electricity.
Are we talking about living or like living as we currently live?
I thought we were talking about what causes people to go to war. Like resources that would cause people to go to war.
Yeah. I'd put electricity.
You think so?
Yeah.
I feel like electricity, like people,
conviction in that.
It's been proven people can live without electricity, because electricity is pretty relatively new in human civilization.
It's been proven that people can eat other people and still live. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a non-point. People lose their shit if the iPhone doesn't connect to a cell phone tower.
That's true.
I mean, you're
right?
talking about.
Did you see
the reaction to TikTok going down? And we're talking about electricity, we're talking about a fucking app, and people are losing their minds.
Does it knock down resources? Does it knock down shit for a while? Sure. Yeah, it's going to knock down stuff for a while. Are these countries going to try to do everything they can to get their energy back up? Sure. Am I going to go to war with Russia so I can get my TikTok to work? Probably not, in that instance.
Never underestimate a bunch of hillbillies that are watching cooking videos.
Because it would only be specific countries that would do that. I mean, there's a lot of countries in the world that don't have that much electricity. They're not going to war with people,
I feel like those are the countries going to wars because they don't have nukes and they are actively trying to kill other people.
Like a lot of the middle of Africa is fighting with each other,
Yeah.
That like really rough area where they're like, do not visit here at all. Don't go.
South America too.
And South America, yeah. They're like, just don't go here, just stay away from that. We're not going to help you if you go here. That's your fault. We have an embassy there, but like I wouldn't go there.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I mean, hey, are psychedelics going to be the thing that solves all these problems? Probably not. But it is just interesting to me that like
look at psychedelics though, when it can cause problems. The Mayans, and they're tripping and they're thinking we've got to make these sacrifices.
What the fuck was that about?
Take the heart. This is what they told me to do.
I mean, here I was thinking when I first heard that, I thought they had people volunteer from their own community, and maybe they did. I think it was virgins that like the leader, emperor, whatever their leader would be called, would be like, yeah, hey, let's sacrifice a virgin because it hasn't rained and we need crops. No, they're fucking snatching people from other villages and other communities and being like, y'all want to get fucking weird and eat some mushrooms and sacrifice this dude on top of the temple?
What if Genghis Khan took mushrooms and something told him, "World's yours, buddy. Get it."
I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about him. Apparently, when we talk about a guy with integrity, he would give them the opportunity when he was going to conquer and say, "Hey, if like we're gonna absorb you in the community, we're not gonna hurt anybody. Just lay down your arms and we're gonna assimilate you in. If not, we're gonna fucking wipe you off the map."
Yeah, dumb if you don't. What the hell? Like, why wouldn't you take that deal? Deal with that problem later. Just get in at the moment, and we'll figure out this deal on the back end later.
I mean, if you heard that they were ravaging everyone before they got to you, like, what are you thinking? Like, no, we're different. We're built different. Like,
Yeah.
okay. What do you got, the LeBron of Warriors back there? And he's just going to.
What do you got in the back that's going to help you with these huge guys that can shoot 4 arrows off a horse within 2 seconds?
Just imagine you turn down the deal. You say, "No deal, banker." And you see that fucking falcon coming. And you're like,
And you got your like partner over here to your left that's helping you run the village, and he gives you that option, and then some guy behind him just right into that your partner, and he's like, "You got one more shot." That's what happens if you don't.
Dude, those battles must have been so hardcore too. Can you imagine being the knights and stuff, and you're clashing, and you get stuck, right? You get like a sword into the gut. You're not standing up. You're not fighting. Maybe you're picking ankles. I don't know. But like, then what? Are you you're hanging out on the ground for bleeding out for a few hours? Like maybe it's just a liver shot or something. You're dying slowly. Like, ugh.
Before morphine.
Ugh.
You know.
God.
Imagine, those Civil War guys. Man, imagine, dude. Though all those battles that were fought in the Appalachians, there had to be a few guys that took some mushrooms, and we're like, "Ooh, that wasn't a good idea."
Yeah, I
cook
mean,
some stuff.
It's just funny. You think about all this stuff, and it's like, what do we bitch about? You
Right?
know,
right?
Like my problems are I don't have a job that I love. And I mean, it's so funny. Problems just, why are there always fucking problems? Like we have so many good things going, and the mind is still. And I'm not calling anybody out or any type of thinking out. I mean, I'm guilty as anyone else, but it's like, why does the mind do that? It's like, do you see the boat over there your neighbor got? Pretty sick boat. You don't have a boat. Are you worth anything?
Is that a way to keep accelerating yourself? Like it's your brain's way of trying to push you, like keep you working. Like, hey man, I have to keep working to keep, to build myself and grow because the brain the more you learn, right, the more receptors are connecting, and that's how the brain works. So the brain might be going, if I push him to want to get that boat, that's going to want to push him to learn something and want to go achieve that, right? So that might be the way of your brain trying to push you.
I was like Victor when I was doing the tour with him in the Amazon, and we went up when I had to go use someone's satellite phone because I thought my father died. Spoiler, he didn't. It was just the medicine. One of the things they were telling me about is like they don't have anxiety or depression down there, like in the villages, because they're so focused on community, just surviving, getting food, just doing the stuff to live. They're like, no, I mean, our anxiety is that
my job is living.
Yeah, that's my job. Is that actually a crocodile in the water, or are we good to swim here?
Well, that's why farmers are so laid back. I feel like their job is just taking care of their land and producing crops to feed. They'll sell the crops, but it's taking care of their land, right? And like you said too, like down there where they're just taking care of their villages. My job is just to help my community. That's literally my job. That's all it is. Is to help these handful of people everywhere. I don't have to go figure out everything else, all the other bullshit, doctor's appointments, insurances, whatever, right? Everyone down there is just helping each other out. Whereas in our society, it's every man for himself, figure it out on your own. Oh, and take care of your family at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a type of way of living, and it has its benefits. But down there also has its benefits. You know, do you want anxiety or not anxiety? There you go. That's I feel like that's what it comes down to a lot of times.
Yeah. That's what I love about like that stoicism stuff. I don't know if you've read any Ryan Holiday's books. But like the philosophers and stuff back then had a fucking ton of money. And they're like, no, we got the money thing figured out, but there's still all these other problems that I have to work through. And it's just no money or money. Still problems.
Mine too. Like when I go on these backpacking trips, I'm gone like for a week, right? And I have no communication with the outside world. I need to get a satellite phone because after these past 2 years, I've learned shit happens for whatever reason while I'm out, actually. So I'm going to get a satellite phone to figure that out now. But you go out there to the wilderness and no one can get a hold of you. There's no outside connection. So it's like going on a trip for a week, like a psychedelic trip for a week, but you're out in nature. And so many people are like, man, I wish I could do that. Like, I could, or when they go down the villages and they see like everyone's anxiety's gone, like, oh, this is amazing. I want to live here. And be like, all right, well, I mean, 5 o'clock, the mosquitoes show up. So just remember to put on the bug spray every day when that happens. Oh, and by the way, we got to go kill a baboon, we got to feed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Today we're good.
It's like the trade-off is real problems.
Yeah.
Your fake problems go away. So now you don't have anxiety because you have real problems.
You have real problems. You just know where the baboons live. You know where the deer are. So you got to go. You're a good hunter. So you can confidently rely on yourself to go get that. Right. Oh, shit, though. That was a crazy storm that just wiped out half this area. I hope all the bugs and animals didn't leave so I can feed on. Oh, that's a real problem now. Now I have to move. Now we have to move to go where everything else is at.
Did you listen to that podcast with I don't remember what podcast is on, the guy that he did a lot of expeditions in the Amazon, and he was visiting a village, and some kid got snatched up by alligator, crocodile, whatever, living down in those waters, and the whole village came together and they start mourning this guy. He's like a teenager, maybe like 18, 19, and so his legs torn up. And so they start mourning him already, and he was like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Well, he's gonna die." And the guy was like, "We can save his life. Like, what are you talking about?" And they're like, "No, I mean, we don't have anything." He's like, "I have a satellite phone. We can get a plane in here." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I mean, I guess we could do that." Like, sure, yeah, that's not a good idea. Cool. We just typically don't do that. And he's like, "No, I mean, we could do that."
Yeah.
That exists. They're like, oh, okay, cool. We just don't run it that way around here. But yeah, well, okay.
Yes. All right, Jimmy. Save you. It's like, damn it.
So I guess that's a good point. Is like at any point in your life, I mean, you could just go live a simple life, but the trade-off is the conveniences, right? Like the fake problems are the real problems.
Is the conveniences to that, right? Like it's cool watching some of those people that build their cabins out in like deep wildernesses, usually in the snow. And they come back after the winter time and kind of have to fix up the cabin a little bit, but they are out there, they are out there. I talked to one guy, national parks. So the way the National Park Service people work is they get just placed. They don't really have an option. The veterans have more of like a selection where they can go, but most of these people they get placed wherever they need people at. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to a guy in New Mexico. He was just working in the gift shop for like a very small national park. There really wasn't much to this thing. And I just asked him like, hey, like, how did you get to working at this spot? Was this your choice? Because I was like, I assume you didn't join National Park Service to work in a gift shop. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, yeah, I've been in it for quite a few years now, but I'm not long enough as some of the veterans. He goes, what I did get selected to work out in Alaska. And he goes, I lived in basically a little hut, and it was 2 hours to the nearest gravel road. And then it was another 3 hours from gravel to the like asphalt. And then once I got to the asphalt, you're kind of in the city at that point. You'll be pretty near stuff, but it was a 4 to 6 hour day one way to get to the nearest thing. And then you have to come back, for groceries. He's like, I did have to do that for several months, so it depends on where you're being put at. But I don't know where I was going with that, but I just know like with the National Park Service, those people will get to live that here in America.
I'm just thinking too, because that terrain is so tough on vehicles. You imagine just going down the road and your fucking tie rod blows out, or actually, and I can end with this because this is gnarly. How about Mike calls me the other day, and I'm gonna give you the short and skinny, and then Mike will be coming on soon, and he can tell us about it. But Mike gave me a call, and we're gonna play the Switch, Nintendo, or whatever. And we'd been skiing earlier that day. Okay, he had family in town. Abby and I come back to the house later on that evening. He's like, "Hey, let me know when we play, or whatever." So I shoot him a text, and he gives me a call, and he's like, "Dude, you won't believe what happened to me." I was like, "Shoot, what happened?" He goes, "Took forever to get down off the mountain. Went to the store, and he wanted to surprise me because I've been borrowing his Mario Golf, right? And I'm too cheap to spend the $60 to get it myself. And I was like, well, we can play some other game, whatever." He wants to surprise me, so he goes to GameStop, goes to 2 different GameStops, excuse me, and he's a mile away from home, and his fucking tie rod blows out, but it's a diesel, and it took out his high pressure line that goes from his brakes back into the turbo or whatever. So no, it's from the brakes to the power steering pump. So he loses power steering and brakes, doing 45, has to run through the red light, avoids the cars, has to go through a ditch, okay, ramps it out of the median in the ditch, and then limps it home in 4 low. And I'm like, did you hit? How'd you slow down? He was like, I timed it through the intersection and ramped it through a culvert and spit out back into the median. Got control of it then and just did 10 miles an hour. I was like, how'd you even park it? He's like, the incline of my driveway. He's like, I just did 2 miles an hour through the neighborhood, put it up the driveway, then slammed it in park and heard the gears crunch. I'm like,
dang,
dude. And we came down off the mountain 4 hours before that.
Wow.
I mean,
that's wild.
Driven through I-70. Like, that's no joke, dude. If you're doing 70 miles or 50 miles an hour down that mountain and that blew out, he had no brakes.
You have to use one of those things that are on the side. I don't know what they call it, the runaway.
Yeah, the runaway ramps.
Yeah, the runaway ramps. Yeah, you'd have to use one of those. Holy shit.
But you're in a truck that doesn't have gears, so you can't engine brake. So you can't downshift.
Yeah.
You're just going.
You didn't have a parking brake you could just throw on?
I guess, however, I mean, knowing Mike, if it was in his capacity to use it, he would have used it. But a parking brake, it just slams the truck. I mean, at that point, you're blowing out everything because you have that the wheel or whatever. The parking brake just crams into there. You
have an option of blowing through a red light with cars coming through and then ramping out of a ditch. I mean,
I don't know how that works. I mean, Mike. So this is the part where when Mike comes on,
you don't have to slam on the parking brake. You can like slowly put it on.
This is where I want to direct some questions to him. Cause I'd be like, hey man, if that did happen, what would you have done?
Some options.
I don't think there's many options coming down a mountain. But I don't know. Crazy shit, right?
We're not in that circumstance. He was. So he still had to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in any event, hey, thanks you guys for tagging along. We love bringing you on a trip. And hey, if you're going on a trip, be safe. I was going to throw in one of our advertisers there, but I got to get that link set back up. So anyway, we love you. We'll see you next week. And peace.
Peace.
I don't remember if we still have the